Hey, what is up, guys? It is Harrison Barron, the Millennial Entrepreneur. Thank you guys so much for checking out my channel. Now, in this video, chances are, if you've networked with people, if you've met people in person back in the day, and that was your way of growing your business, that's great, but sadly, those times are kind of over. Now, we're slowly getting back to it, but even me, an avid networker, who would go out 4, 5, 6 times a week going to meet people, that is sadly dead. So what is a way that you could grow your business? Well, I'm going to give you guys 2 ways that you guys can grow your business because these 2 ways have worked for me. I'm not going to just try to tell you about something I've never done before. I'm going to actually tell you what I've done to grow my business, to get more sales, and ultimately earn more money. So the first thing is something that I've preached tremendously on this channel, and that's LinkedIn. If you haven't used LinkedIn yet, now is the time to use it. COVID-19 and this pandemic have destroyed the country and destroyed most of the world. Whether or not it's wreaked havoc on you and your family, which I do feel horrible about, or it's just turned your life upside down, kind of like mine, there is some opportunity on LinkedIn. Now, I thankfully have been using LinkedIn for years now and been putting out content and connecting with the right people and sending the right messages. But a lot of people thought I was crazy a year or so ago when I said, hey, this is where the money is right now. There's so much opportunity here. There's so many things to do. And a lot of people aren't taking advantage of it. There are millions of people. I think there's a couple 100 million people on LinkedIn. And on top of that, there's about 40 million-ish senior level influencers and decision makers on the platform that, here's the catch, use it every day. That is the most important thing. They're using LinkedIn every single day. So why wouldn't you want to be on the platform? I have tons of videos in the past that teach you everything you're ever going to want to know about LinkedIn. So why not get on it? You can connect with the right people. You can make better connections. You can find those decision makers. You can even sort out what companies fit in your ideal playbook for you to go after. Why wouldn't you want to do that? And the best part is there's no cold calling. There's no breaking out your phone and saying, hey, Mary Sue, I'm calling for Jim, the owner of the company. Click. No, she's done. That is dead and gone. And honestly, if you're cold calling people nowadays, first of all, I feel horrible for you. Cold calling stinks. I've done that in my life. But if you're cold calling people nowadays, they're not at their offices. You may or may not get a hold of somebody. And if you do get a hold of somebody, they're not transferring you. They don't have the capabilities of transferring you to their bosses. So what do you do now? You can go straight to the boss. I have a quick little story I want to share with you. I have a friend of mine, and the way he used to sell pre-COVID-19 was he would find the company on LinkedIn, and instead of connecting with the CEO or anything like that, he would check out the CEO's profile, he'd check him out on Facebook and things like that, learn as much as he could about him, and then he would go to their office. He would try to find an employee-only entrance. He'd walk in, say he's the new guy, say he hasn't gotten his credentials yet. He'd go up to the CEO's office, which is typically in either corner of the room, or the building, I should say, and he would go knock on the door and introduce himself. Very, very rarely he'd get thrown out, and more times than not, he would almost always close the deal, because who is brave enough to break into somebody else's office? Now, please, I'm not telling you to go break into other people's offices. That is not what I'm doing right now. But I'm telling you, that methodology is kind of gone because more and more people are not going to the office. So how do you get a hold of them? I know business owners that haven't been in their office in weeks, if not months, and if they do go, it's for a few minutes to grab paperwork or make a copy. So what do you do now? Leverage LinkedIn. It is the easiest platform to use. If you get Sales Navigator, it's so incredibly powerful. It gives me chills to think about how strong and how powerful that system is. Now, if that's not for you, or that's not something that you might find interesting, that's fine. I'm going to give you another creative way that I've used to grow my business. Now, this other creative way is something you have also seen on my YouTube channel, which is my podcast. My podcast has literally generated almost every single one of my leads. Now, my leads have also come from LinkedIn and things like that, and I found people I wanted to connect with, and I did some research. The two are extremely intertwined. So I may have found my guest on LinkedIn, right? There was no sales pitch. They came on my show, we spoke, they hung out with me in my studio, and then either they became a customer or they referred me out to being a customer. My podcast has been the single greatest lead magnet on the planet. Bar none, there's been nothing better. There's nothing that I have ever seen or done in my business or other people's businesses that has been more effective than using a podcast to get people in the door. Sounds really, really weird, but think about it, right? I connect with somebody, we become friends, I find them very interesting. Now, keep in mind, I also only went after local people. I'd invite them on my show. My show is an hour and a half long. How long do you think it takes to develop a good friendship? I tell you what, I know it takes more than 20 minutes. It takes a solid hour or two. So typically they'd come on the show, we'd hang out for 15, 20 minutes before the show, then we'd record, and then after the show we'd hang out for another 15 or 20 minutes. Guess what I didn't talk about during my podcast? I never talked about my business. I never talked about, or very rarely talk about my business before and after the show. The only time I talk about my business is when they actually ask. And when they ask about me, I know that they've either gotten comfortable enough with me or they're curious to know how I keep this whole thing running if I don't charge guests and I don't have ads in my podcast. I usually let them know, hey, by the way, I have a digital marketing company. This is how I do things. This is what I do for businesses and things like that. And typically that's enough to grab their attention for them to say, wow, that's pretty cool. Or, you know what? I'm kind of fed up with my guy. Or, oh my God, my buddy was just telling me about how they hate their marketing guy. I'd love to make an introduction for you, right? That is literally the easiest way to get business. So it's actually kind of funny. A lot of times I would use LinkedIn to find my podcast guest, and then my podcast guest would help close that person. It sounds crazy, I know, but that's literally how it's worked for me. But if you're not doing either one of these and you're a business owner, I highly encourage you to look into either using LinkedIn to make sales, which it's extremely good at. I just had a recent friend of mine close a $13 million financial advising deal with a new prospect purely from LinkedIn. Now, if that's not impressive, granted he's not going to make all $13 million, but that's a lot of money. And even if he only gets a couple percentage of that, that's still a lot of money. So there's plenty of opportunity on LinkedIn. Now, if you're somebody that needs to build relationships with people and you're looking to connect with more of those people that can kind of help push your products down the road, a podcast is a great alternative to having that happen. I know it sounds kind of weird, but that's literally what's happened. I cannot tell you. It's actually funny. I have one of my part-time guys is in the office. He's like, dude, your podcast makes no money. Why are you still doing it? It's stupid. Why are you doing it? I don't understand. I don't see the value in the podcast, right? And every single time we get a new client, it's because of the podcast. Don't get me wrong, my digital marketing helps and it's growing and things like that. But most of the time, it's because of my podcast. Or, weirdly enough, somebody finds my company online, listens to my podcast, likes me, and then calls me. I don't understand it. It makes literally no sense to me, but this is literally how it's been working, and I want to share that information with you. That's why I've started this channel. I literally believe so much in what I've done, and I've kind of stumbled upon success, that I want to share it out with you because this is what I feel, and what I feel is necessary. There's so many fake gurus out there selling this training. There's so many people out there saying, oh, start a podcast. No. This is what I've done to grow my business, and I want you to either try it, or if you're looking for another alternative, if your sales guys are tired of calling or something like that, this is a great way to get in front of your ideal prospects to build those better connections, right? Because you could build connections on LinkedIn and you could build connections on a podcast, right? And that's a great way to get people into your office, to get them talking, to get them learning about you. And then ultimately, the best part about it is at the end of either interaction, whether it's on LinkedIn, which is a little bit less of a deeper friendship, or if it's during a podcast, that is a tremendously deep relationship. That is a friend that I will have forever. It's somebody's cell phone number I will have if I can call them if I have a question. And honestly, I love it. It's beyond fulfilling for me to be able to have my podcast and show people these things. So these are two of the most impressive ways that I've built my business. It's worked really, really well. And honestly, just the other day, I got a lead for somebody who had no idea about the digital marketing space, where I help people thrive and grow in there. And literally, he found me because he asked a friend, right? He didn't even go on Google. He asked a friend, hey, do you have somebody that runs Facebook ads? I'd really need somebody to run Facebook ads. He's like, oh my God, I have the best guy. Go check him out, right? Guess where that lead came from? Came from networking, and it came from my podcast. Networking, I just bumped into him, but I thought he was an interesting guy. I said, come on the show, and boom, now he referred me out. So if you're looking to figure out how to make more money, something like that, I highly recommend try LinkedIn, try podcasting. I'll put both of those little logos right there. And other than that, I hope you guys found this helpful. I hope you guys implement it. If you guys do start a podcast or you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, either leave a comment down below with your connections or click on my LinkedIn connection down below. I'll see you guys later.